Yeah. Okay, so very good afternoon to one and all who has joined us for this online meeting to attend the third day of this short-term training program, which is sponsored by All India Council for Technical Education and organized by Ballarpur Institute of Technology, Ballarpur. On behalf of the organizing committee of this short-term training program, I welcome you all to attend first session of the day and I would take this opportunity to welcome our honorable guest for today's session, that is Dr. Samir Deshmukh sir. So Dr. Samir Deshmukh sir is a professor in Lakshminarayan Institute of Technology, popularly known as LIT Nagpur. Prior to this, he was professor and head of Department of Chemical Engineering in Priyadarshini Institute of Engineering and Technology. Before joining PIT, Dr. Samir Deshmukh sir was Associate Professor and Head of Department of Chemical Engineering with Jawaharlal Darda Institute of Engineering and Technology, Yavatmal. He is also Project Coordinator for Enhancing Green Economy in 3 countries in Asia. He is life member of the Indian Society for Technical Education, life member of Nagpur University Teachers Association, and annual member of journal Pradushan Nirmulan, Dream Earth publication, and also annual member of the journal Environment, Pollution, Enviro Media. Technologies developed by him at pilot scale include direct contact membrane distillation for concentration of food juices and pharmaceutical products, multi-stage air gap membrane distillation for wastewater treatment, integrated reverse osmosis and membrane distillation for desalination, biodiesel plant and extraction of citronella oil. His expertise and leadership has enabled the sanction of funds for many projects like grant of rupees 60 lakhs for enhancing green economy in 3 Asian countries, co-funded by the Erasmus and the European Union. Then being coordinator of Modrop AICTE, he has obtained sanction of rupees 17 lakhs for process control laboratory, rupees 10 lakhs sanction for mass transfer laboratory in session 2014-15, and sanction of rupees 6.68 lakhs, that is 6 lakhs 68,000, again for mass transfer laboratory in the session 2012 and 13. He has also received seminar grants from AICTE of rupees 1 lakh 15,000 in the session 2013-14, and seminar grant from MPCB for rupees 1 lakh when he was convener in the session 2012-13. So he is reviewer for journals like Journal of Membrane Science, Science Journal Publication, Desalination and Water Treatment (DWT), Science Journal of Pure and Applied Chemistry, Journal of Chemical Engineering and Material Science, African Journal of Food Science and Technology, Membrane Water Treatment Technopress Company, Asian Food Science Journal, International Research Journal of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Then he is also a research consultant for Indian Biodiesel Corporation of Baramati, Pune, and Mahindra Private Limited, Nagpur, and also Rudra Farms of Nagpur. He has been honored quite frequently. He was listed in Marquis Who's Who biography in 2018, a Franklin membership of London Journals Press, UK. He is appreciated with a certificate from Journal of Membrane Science for highest scientific credit in the year. He has represented university in Avishkar 2008 held at Mumbai. He is also recipient of Best Teacher Award for session 2006-2007 and 2009-2010. And he has also won second prize in DIPEX 2004 for manufacturing of biodiesel. I must say, Dr. Samir Deshmukh sir, it is an honor for all of us to have you as an expert guest. Thank you very much for agreeing to our request on such a short notice and taking out time out of your busy schedule and accepting our invitation. I will now request you to please start with the session.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this generous introduction. Uh, Please bear with me a couple of minutes. I want to share my presentation.
Sure, sir.
I hope my presentation is visible to all, right?
Sir, right now it is not. In Google Meet, sir, we need to share the screen from
I
present now.
shared my screen. I share my screen.
Okay. Right now it is not showing. To me, it is not showing.
Okay.
Now it is presenting your screen.
Okay. So presentation is visible to all, right?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay. So thanks for generous introduction, Abhijit sir. Good afternoon to all. First, like to thanks organizer for giving me opportunity to discuss biotechnological development and issues with such a learned audience. Before going to the topic, let's revise the agricultural history of our country because we are talking of biofertilizer and biopesticide and its sustainable approach for Indian agriculture. Before going to the topic, I want to introduce about some background of agriculture in our country. We all know, but just a revision, we will do it. Not very ancient, but at least agriculture practices before and after independence. We all know we are a agriculture country. Our main occupation is agriculture, and around 50% of people is involved in this sector. So before independence, the Britishers have not given much of focus to this sector, and we are in a disaster-like situation in agriculture at least. But after independence, in green revolution, the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides and building of dams and making irrigation to meet our food security. First green revolution is carried out in 1965. But with time, we learned that excessive use of this chemical fertilizers and pesticide is harmful to our environmental, to our health, to our soil, to our air, and to our overall to our ecosystem. So the question in front of us is, what is the viable alternative? So is it that we can replace all the chemical fertilizer with biofertilizer or biopesticides or organic farming? Before independence, our farming is all based on organic. We use manure as our fertilizer. We use some bioorganic pesticides to kill pests. So the production is less, productivity is less. We depend on food on other countries. Most of the food is imported by other countries as aid coming from US and Western countries. So we lack food security. So so do come green revolution and we becomes a food sustain country now. We have a food excess country. We are the second largest producer of grain and fruits and most of the agriculture product. So the question in front of us is what is the viable alternative? Can we discard chemical fertilizer and pesticide? Can we replace it with biofertilizer and biopesticide? What to do? So we need to work out just by telling that yes, replace chemical fertilizer and pesticide by biofertilizer and biopesticide is not a solution because we want to maintain our food security. We want sufficient food for 1.3 billion people. So if we directly discard chemical fertilizer and pesticide and go for biofertilizer and biopesticide, our food security can come under danger. So that we don't want. So what are the solutions? So we need to think judiciously. We need high yield food security. We want sustainable growth. We want to care for environment. We want this technology should go for the future generation to come. It is not like we will use all the fertility of land and grow for 10, 20 years, and coming generations will have a infertile land, no food to eat. That we don't want. So we want a sustainable agriculture system in our country. So for that we will require a combination of chemical fertilizer and biofertilizer and chemical pesticide and biopesticide. We need to think of a midway part. Many researchers in bio talk of an extreme complete discard of chemical fertilizer and chemical pesticide. But that is not the way what I think. We need to think of a midway so as to have a good yield, so as to maintain our food security, as well as we need a sustainable agriculture sector for our future generation to come. We don't want our land to get infertile. We don't want our air to get polluted. We don't want our ecosystem to get disturbed. So we don't want our health to be compromised. So we need to think of a midway path for for bio for agriculture sector. Looking for world, so world agriculture has progressed similar time in what we are progress. Our green revolution, first green revolution is in 1965, and world agriculture has progressed dramatically in this period only. As a result of research and development, high yield varieties and hybrid along with intensive input, particularly the chemical fertilizer, pesticide, and water, have resulted in such a phenomenal growth in green revolution first. Not in our country, but in throughout the world. Developing countries being largely agriculture-based economies benefited substantially from this advancement, achieving food self-sufficiency, improved rural incomes and economy, and higher overall economic growth. We all know that agriculture contributes 16 to 70% to our GDP. And in the pandemic, we know the only positive is our agriculture GDP. While the gains have been very impressive, the input intensive agriculture has resulted in some undesirable effect on the environment and the overall sustainability of the farming system. What we do is when we develop technology, we have not judicially used it, we excessively used it. Whatever technology, water drawing technologies or any technology, power generation, we have extensively used the resources. We have not judicially used the resources. Same thing we have done with our agriculture. Excessive use of chemical fertilizer, chemical pesticides has done a great harm to our ecosystem. Adverse effect of chemical pesticides have been reported on both the abiotic and biotic component of the environment. The former are exemplified by residues in soil, air, water, food, etc. So this residues, this pollutant is in everywhere. Your fertilizer and your pesticide, not only in the land, but not only in the soil, but it was also in air, it was in water, it was in food. And now every water body will have some amount of pesticide. And then later by phytotoxicity, residues, vegetation changes, etc. in plants and physiological deformities, disease, mortality, population change, genetic disorder, etc. in mammals, avian, insects, and other organisms. In human also. Entry of pesticide into the food chain coupled with their bioaccumulation and biomagnification trigger effect of unforeseen consequences. Chemicals like methyl bromide, chlorofluorocarbon, etc. are established culprits for depletion of our ozone layer. Mainly this component comes from your pesticide.
Sir,
In this,
sorry to interrupt.
yep.
There is a query in the chat box. The participants are saying, sir, is it that are we still on the first slide or
No,
is
no,
it
we are on
more?
the first slide. Yeah, it's an introduction. We
Okay.
are on the first slide. Right?
It was just a query. That's it, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, no issue. Indiscriminate use of fertilizer, particularly the nitrogenous, has led to a substantial pollution of soil, air, and water. Fertilizer contamination of groundwater has led to eutrophication of lake and river water, causing depletion of oxygen and even death of aquatic life. Nitrate pollution increases emission of gases of nitrogen and metal toxicities. The presence of nitrates in potable water has been blamed for health hazards such as birth defects, impaired nervous system, cancer, and several issues. So we need to think about use of this fertilizer and chemical fertilizer and pesticides, its effects, but its requirement also. Above all, we need to know that 1 billion people lack access to adequate food and nutrition worldwide. We have seen what health effect it causes. But on the other side, we need to feed 1 billion people adequate food and nutrition worldwide. In our country, we are the 17% of population. The expected agriculture production has to be doubled. Whatever production we are producing today, we have to double it because our population is growing. So presently, more than millions of people are chronically hungry, and our hunger index is disaster. We have lots of people which are malnutrition. We, we don't have food to eat. So and our farmers, the land holding are very small. In this juncture, agriculture production is facing increasing challenge like water scarcity, climate change, and volatility, rising the risk of production shortfalls. Since agriculture has potential for food security, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity worldwide, the future vision of world is to adapt new strategies to increase agriculture production sustainability. So we need to find out a new way. We can't go by conventional way by green revolution one, two, high use of fertilizer, high use of pesticide, large use of water. So this will not work because it will not be sustainable. It will not work. Like some states like Punjab in green revolution is called as meal bowl of the country. Most of the wheat comes from Punjab. So, but day by day use of all this hazardous chemical fertilizer and pesticide, the fertility of the land is going down. So we need to think alternative. So food and environment. We talk of food production. I have told you that uh, the history of agriculture in India dates back to Indus Valley civilization. India ranks, we all know, is the second worldwide in farms output. Agriculture employed more than 50% of Indian workforce and contributes around 70 to 80% to country GDP that we already discussed. According to the latest reports, agriculture is primary source of livelihood for 58% of people in our country. But before independence, our agriculture sector was in disaster in British rule. And the Bengal in 1943, 3 million people died because of hunger. Because in Second World War, they sent most of the food to their soldiers, and it was lack of food. And it's the biggest disaster in our country, where in 1943 in Bengal, 3 million people died due to hunger. And then after independence, we need to realize that time the government realized that there was a need to become a self-sufficient. So this ushered in India green revolution. It began with decision to adopt superior yielding using disease resistance wheat varieties in combination with better farming knowledge to improve productivity. So we change our food habits, we change our crop pattern. So we used a new revolution that is known as Green Revolution, famously known as the Green Revolution. So the Green Revolution in India marked a period of time when agriculture practice shifted from traditional practices to more technological methods. So bullock and bullock carts are replaced by tractors, and mechanical harvesting equipments are introduced. Organic manure is replaced by chemical fertilizer. Organic pesticides are replaced by chemical pesticides, and that resulted into making India the second largest producer of grains and fruits. So this is the positive side about food production, but the negative side is that that has to destroy large amount of our biodiversity. Jungles are cut, land is become saline, pollution has been created, air, water, soil, everything is polluted because of this development. But then, is there any option? We need food. We need to feed 1.3 billion people. So that time they don't have any options. But since the technological development and the researchers like you working on biotechnology need to think a better option to replace some part of this chemical fertilizer and chemical pesticides. Technical approaches has given rise to input intensive and unsustainable agriculture practices that ultimately reduced water table, caused erosion and loss in biodiversity that we already discussed. The Green Revolution focused on the introduction and growth of high yield varieties. This shift in agriculture technology has caused and continues to cause irreversible change, including deterioration in soil health and nutrients. This practice makes it difficult to shift back to organic farming, like what we do in before independence. No chemical fertilizer, no RCF to produce chemical fertilizer, only organic manure from cow dung, from agriculture waste. The manure is prepared as a fertilizer. So, so can we shift it like pro-independence to organic farming on the same land? Can we replace chemical fertilizer, chemical pesticide by that? We need to think. We need to work on that. In the years since independence, India has made immense progress towards food security. And we have to maintain this food security now. Indian population has tripled. We are 35 crore in 1947. Now we are around 1.3 billion. But at the same time, due to green revolution, our food grain product has increased by 4 times. So we are food excess country now. So we have to maintain this food production by keeping in mind the environmental hazards and health hazards and erosion of soil causing because of this fertilizers and pesticides. We talk about food quality. So different species have been introduced to maintain the food quality. Food quality or meal quality is the quality characteristics of food that is acceptable to consumer. We know in our country different part has different food habits. So like in South they eat rice, in North they eat wheat and so on. So different region have different food habits. Their food safety, their nutritional quality they maintain in their food, their tradition. So all need to be maintained while replacing or combining with new technologies using biofertilizer or biopesticide. We need to maintain this food quality. We also talk about food fortification, right? Or Food fortification is nothing but enrichment in the process of adding micronutrients to food. Like in rice, to malnutrition people, they give rice which was fortified with iron, so that with rice they should get an iron. So we need to add nutrients like iron in rice. Main method of fortification, commercial and Indian fortification, like wheat flour, I have told you, corn meal, cooking oil are fortified with nutrients. They are added with a, a better nutrient. So with so in food and environment, food fortification, we talk about post harvest management. We talk about food packaging and marketing, because packaging also has done a great help to a food industry. We know that milk earlier can be stored for a couple of days. Due to uh, increasing this packaging technology, it can be stored for 6 months now. So food packaging and packaging has made great contribution to food security. So if you look at this graph, it shows that, and it's very natural, if we goes on increasing the amount of fertilizer, the production, food production will goes on increasing, because it maintains the nutrients needed in the soil. But during 99 2000, it was found that this relation is distorted. The increase in fertilizer does not increase the food grain production. Food grain production does not increase. And this is because of infertility of land. We are adding the additional nutrient, but the land basically has lost its pH, lost its carbon content, lost its main nutrients. And the graph suddenly, after decades, it shows that even fertilizer, even addition of nutrients to soil does not increase the productivity. So some states witnessed consumption of fertilizer picking up without any conspicuous gain on agriculture crop productivity. So these are some graphs which tells you about the fertilizer consumption. About chemical fertilizer consumption, it goes on increasing by decade. From 1950 to 2020, world fertilizer consumption goes on increasing. As the population grows, the food requirement will increase, and your fertilizer requirement also goes on increasing. If you see the last graph, it will shows about the population and increase in fertilizer consumption. Because food security, we want more food for more people. In 1950, the population of the world is 2 billion, now it's 8 billion. So population is increasing, world fertilizer consumption is increasing. Fertilizer consumption, chemical fertilizer consumption will increase, will erode your soil, will erode your air, will degrade your water. If you check any groundwater in the country, you will find some amount of pesticide in our drinking water. So it was gone that deep. So this, the fertilizer, we talk of NPK, and this tells us about the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium composition consumption in different decades. And it was increasing decade by decade. So this is nitrogen use efficiency in different crops at various locations. So it depends on the type of land, that the how much amount of fertilizer need to be added, and what is its nitrogen use efficiency. Like for rice in India, the nitrogen use efficiency percent absorption is 28-34%. Whereas in Pakistan, it was better than in our country. So for various crops, if you see the nitrogen use efficiency, it also depends upon the quality of land. Now, when we add fertilizer, how it affects to our soil, to our air, to our water bodies. So when we use constant use of fertilizer and the fertility we need to replenish, it will have the consequences to everything. One of the problem with, or the major problem with chemical fertilizer is that they seep through the soil. They will not only remain on soil and degrade your soil, but it will seep through the soil with water, and it will goes into your groundwater and the other water sources. So when rain comes, it will wash away, it will go to your lakes, to your rivers, and then it will contaminate all your water bodies. And the contaminant will get leached out and it will be part of your water system now. NPK is in small quality is non-toxic. If you add a fertilizer in a small quality, so it's a non-toxic. It will not harm to any of your ecosystem. But a lot, if you add a lot, it can kill the balance of nature in various ways. Nitrogen is especially tricky. Some of this, some of the impact of nitrogen includes algae blooms causing the depletion of oxygen in surface water. Due to nitrogen, a lot of algae will form in water bodies. And what happens is algae will consume your oxygen in the water bodies. So if the water, and we know the water quality depends on the oxygen contained in water. If these algae will consume all your water, your lakes and your rivers will get dead. We call a river or water body is dead depends on its oxygen content. And due to large nitrogen content, the algae blooms will cause depletion of oxygen. And also pathogens and nitrates in drinking water will harm your water bodies, your groundwater, your surface water will get harmed. And the emissions, some will get seep out in the water and some will get vaporized. And once they vaporize, they will cause odor and gases into air. So they will harm your atmosphere, your air. Nutrient from manure and fertilizers enter lakes and streams through runoff and soil erosion. Some of the major harm of chemical fertilizers are like water vapor pool, chemical burn to crops. When you burn the crops, this chemical will get volatile and it will vaporize into air. It will be in air, like we know in Punjab, the paddy burning. So it is not only the PM 2.5 which cause pollution in Delhi, but also some chemicals which are part of the chemical fertilizer and pesticide will also burn and they will add to your air pollution. Acidification of the soil pH will change, it will get acidified, and the mineral depletion of the soil will occur. So fertilizer effect was not only on your ecosystem, but it will be also equally on the health. Contaminated water may contain high levels of nitrate and nitrites, causing hemoglobin disorder. Heavy metals such as mercury, lead, cadmium, and uranium have been found in fertilizer, which may cause disturbance in the kidney, lungs, livers, and can cause cancer. So these are carcinogenic also. So that is an harm caused by a fertilizer. We need to know this is very harmful. So some case studies where gaseous nitrogen loss from the agriculture feeds applied soluble chemical fertilizer talks about some emissions into the gases taken from case studies from literature like wheat and maize. Nitrous oxide was emitted in the air, and this NOx are a greenhouse gases. It will harm your atmosphere in a great way. So these are some chemicals which was leached and will goes to your water bodies. So this is about agriculture in our country. So before coming to biopesticide and biofertilizer, this is the background why we need to think of an alternative. And before going to an alternative, we need to check some facts about at least to our country for Indian scenario. So now the total agricultural land is fixed. You can't increase it. You don't want your forest to be cut for more agricultural land. We don't want to disturb our ecosystem. So we can say that we have this much amount of land for farming. We don't want further land to be created by disturbing our biodiversity and disturbing our jungle and disturbing our environment. So in this particular amount of land, we need to grow sufficient food to feed 1.3 billion people. That 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 is our that is what we have to do. And for that, what need to be done has to be done. So we are like I already told you, we are second largest producer in grains, second largest producers of fruit, vegetables, wheat, rice, groundnut, and sugar. But we are second largest population also. Objective. So after going through this presentation, what is our objective? To know about biofertilizer and biopesticides, their characteristics, understand the prospects. Don't only understand the prospect, one we have an judicious view, overall 360-degree view. Also check what are the disadvantages, what are the difficulties. No thing in the world will give you only advantage. There is always some disadvantage associated that need to be studied and that need to be rectified. And also select a low cost, sustainable and efficient biofertilizer for your organic farming. We don't want an option which is very costly, which is not sustainable. So we want at least the cost should be of close to the chemical fertilizer. It should not be very high. Otherwise, no, you can't ask anybody to use such a high cost fertilizer and pesticide. So this is the introduction uh, about general agriculture and its sustainability. So agriculture land gets impoverished after long-term cultivation if not supplemented properly with inputs. So we want fertilizer. We want our land to be fertile. So when you constantly use the land, it leads to loss of its fertility. And thus, fertility needs to be replenished. The deficiency of any one or more nutrients in the soil may impart the growth and development of your crops. Microelements like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash are the main requirement. NPK, what we called it, are the main requirement. And it contained varied. Somewhere it required 19, 19, 19%, somewhere it required 10, 8, 6%. Depends on the land quality. what we required. Our land required are depleted because when you use it constantly for agriculture purpose, it will lose it the nutrients, and we have to add the nutrients. This we add it by either by chemical fertilizer or by organic matter or by biofertilizer. So microelements like NPK is the most required, and it was required in large quantities. And this was generally referred as NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Chemical fertilizer like nitrogen and phosphorus are applied to the land so that it regains its fertility. So manures are also used like in general we use cow dung manure as an organic fertilizer. So manures are used. Manures from cow dung, animal waste, from crop waste. So manures can be used which can give you nitrogen or phosphorus and potassium, whatever needed. So the so now we will focus on fertilizer consumption and food grain production scenario that what we have already seen. So because of decline in crop productivity, we seen that 97 after 97 98 the increase in fertilizer amount does not increase the crop productivity. So we need to check alternative. We want a sustainability of farmers. We know we mostly are from Vidarbh region where farmer suicide is a black spot to our area. So deficiency of nutrient in soil is to be taken care of. So we need to think judiciously. So use of balanced fertilizer and biofertilizer. So we need to have a balanced combination so that the bad effects of chemical fertilizer need to be taken care of, adding a more eco-friendly fertilizer as than biofertilizer. We need to check we need to study the comparison. So we already know the role of fertilizer. I hope till now we understand the role of fertilizer. It increases productivity. Therefore, there has to be a positive correlation between use of fertilizer and crop yield. The crop yield is falling and not in proportion to fertilizer consumption. After 97, 98, we have checked that graph. Let's check the comparison to other countries. So if you see this table, it's a good thing that we are the least use of fertilizer per hectare of land. Like China and UK, you will see they use 3 times more fertilizer per hectare of land. But this is a half story. Their per hectare crop production is 5 and 4 times than us. So if you see one side, it's good that we are using less chemical fertilizer per hectare, but their production is much more in Egypt, China, Sri Lanka. Their production is much more than our production per hectare. Because of declining crop productivity, imbalance, and indiscriminate use of chemical fertilizer, occurrence of multi-nutrient deficiencies such as zinc, boron, sulfur, etc. besides NPK. Our agriculture is mostly rain dependent. About two-thirds area is a dry region, depends on rain. We have inadequate irrigation facilities. Continuous formation of land unfavorable for adoption of technology. We have to balance what I have told you. We have to balance between chemical fertilizer, organic fertilizer, and biofertilizer, and can provide a viable leverage to increase crop productivity. That's what we have to study. That is what what studies are going on. So this is what the main objective. It enrich the soil with important nutrients. Biofertilizer has potential to generate additional income to farmers as their side product. So types of biofertilizer, there are several types of fertilizer. We will discuss it in detail. So we need to look to this graph. Major cause of nutrient deficiency in soil. Usually low or high soil pH levels, roots are unable to access sufficient amount of nutrients. So we have to maintain the pH of the soil. This can be due to poor growing conditions, excessively wet or dry land, because like in Vidarbha region is a very dry region. Some part is very dry region. So if it's excessively wet or dry, the absorption of nutrients will be low. Cold weather or soil compaction can be uh, can be the disadvantage for nutrient absorption. So it can also be because of root injury due to mechanical, due to insects, due to diseases. So there are several things which can cause nutrient deficiency in soil. So soil need to be replenished. So it can be done by the method shown in the graph. Beside NPK, sulfur, zinc, and calcium are also required in good quantity. Other nutrients such as iron, boron, etc., though required in small quantities, but their deficiency significantly impact plants and growth life. So micronutrient deficiency, so it will also cause infertility. So these are the contents required for overall growth of plant. It is not only NPK. There are micronutrients and some other nutrients are also needed in proper proportions. That is what that is what very important. It required. Then we come to our main topic. What is biofertilizer? So microorganisms that enrich the soil in nutrients by their biological activity are called biofertilizer. Up till now, we have known that what are the nutrients required to replenish the land. And biofertilizer is one which comes from microorganisms. Main sources are bacteria, cyanobacteria, and fungi. So how bacteria work as biofertilizer. So bacteria that improves soil fertility may be symbiotic or non-symbiotic, or occurring in loose association with roots of higher plants. They enrich the soil by fixing free nitrogen into nitrogen compounds and thus reduce the dependency on the use of chemical fertilizer. And symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria like Rhizobium is a symbiotic bacteria living in association with leguminous plant. It forms root nodules in the legume plants and fixes atmospheric nitrogen. They fix atmospheric nitrogen in the presence of pigment legumoglobin. After harvesting the crop, the roots of legume crops are allowed to decay in soil, and this enriches the soil with nitrogen compound. Thus, succeeding crop required less nitrogenous fertilizer. The legume crops are thus used in crop rotating and green manuring. So, in that way, biofertilizer is used. So, it was formulation of such microorganisms which can be applied to seed, root, or soil, mobilize the availability of nutrients by their biological activity. They help build up the soil microflora and thereby soil health. As we know, organic farming excludes the use of any chemicals. But if when we used a pure fertilizer and not a combination. Use of biofertilizer is recommended for improving the soil fertility in organic farming. A simple form of classification of biofertilizer is given below. For nitrogen, so it was rhizobium of legume crops. What I have told you, that legume crop was grown so that it produced nitrates and nitrogen in the soil. Azotobacter, azospirillum for non-legume crops, Acetobacter for sugarcane only, blue-green algae, and Azolla for lowland paddy. And for phosphorus, these are the bacteria suggested. For enriched compost, cellulolactic fungal culture, Phosphotica, and Azotobacter culture are used. These are alternative for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for alternative to NPK. So types of biofertilizers. So we have classified it into nitrogen fixing biofertilizer. The nitrogen fixing bacteria work under two conditions. Like I have told you, symbiotically and as well as asymbiotically, free living bacteria. The symbiotic bacteria make an association with crop plants through forming nodules in their roots. And the free living bacteria do not form any association but live freely and fix atmospheric nitrogen. And now let us feature the microbes in the details. We will go through details. Let's check the benefits. So it was low cost, easy technique. It does not harm because it don't have pollutant in its content. So it was free from pollutant hazards. Yes, it has to increase the soil fertility. That's why what we use fertilizer. Quantity required decrease year by year. Since we have our soil and it was made unfertile due to use of chemical fertilizer, will take time. But as we goes on increasing more and more biofertilizer, the quantity will required will less. It will naturally will have NPK content. So the amount required will goes on decreasing. Many agents secretes antibiotics which act as a pesticide also. It improves physicochemical properties of soil. And it was harmless to human being as well as to our ecosystem. So nitrogenous fertilizer, of course, it take nitrogen from atmosphere, have to react with hydrogen and form ammonia, which will be used as an nitrogenous fertilizer. And this technique was developed by Fritz Haber, the German chemist, and the reaction is carried out at 800 Fahrenheit, high pressure and required high energy for nitrogen fixing. So nitrogenous fertilizer, these are the bacteria given which have more nutrients and better performance, according to better performance. So rhizobium, as we already talked that rhizobium lives in the root hairs of legumes. The name rhizobium was established by Frank in 1989. So this genus has 7 distinct species based on cross inculation group concept. More than 20 cross inculations groups have been established so far. A new classification has been established for rhizobium. So the development goes on and on, developing new bacteria, new species, new microorganisms. which will gives you the desired amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, NPK, and other nutrients. So about rhizobium, we can note the details. This organism can be isolated from soil or root nodule after sterilizing the root nodule by mercury chloride or sodium hydrochloride solution or 90% ethanol. And they look like colonies are white and translucent. And how to apply it? Methods of application of rhizobium. The seed treatment has been found to be suitable method of rhizobium inoculation. Some adhesive is used to make proper contact between seeds and inoculant. Some acid, the very raw method is we use good or jaggery as an adhesive to stick this rhizobium to the seeds. About 900 grams soil based culture is sufficient to inoculate the seeds for 1 hectare area in case of legumes. A 10% jaggery good solution is used as a sticker for rhizobium cells to seeds. First, the solution is spread over the seeds and mixed to build up a thin coat over the cells. After ascertaining the proper content of slurry over the seeds, the inoculant is sprinkled over the seeds and the content is again mixed thoroughly. Then the content is dried in the shaded by spreading thinly on a polythene sheet at least for overnight. This is free living or non-symbiotic bacteria. Azothromycin species established an association with many plants, particularly with sea plants such as maize, sorghum, sugarcane, etc. It is the most common organism and can form associative symbiosis on a large variety of plants. Azothromycin is recognized as a dominant soil microbe. What are the steps involved in microbial inoculant? Isolation, we have already discussed identification of native strain, screening of best isolate and developing mother culture and develop it because once we isolate, we want to multiply it, we want to cultivate it. Cultivation on large scale using industrial media was best done at the pH in the range between 6.5 to 7, 5% in column in 4 to 7 days. Measuring cell count, mixing the culture with carrier like farmyard manual or charcoal or lignite, peat, etc. Coconut peel is the mostly used nowadays. And then pack and store in a condition of 4 to 15. You need to transport it properly. Azotobacter.
Sir, is it okay to take the questions during the slides, or shall we take it?
Uh, I think I will complete it between 15 to 20 minutes and then we can go for questions, right?
Okay, okay, that's absolutely fine, sir. There are a few questions in the chat box. That is the reason I just asked.
Okay, okay.
Okay, sir.
So this is for Azotobacter. So we will not discuss it in detail. I have told you, you can go through the slides and so these are characteristics of Azotobacter. In 1925, Pajernik isolate nitrogen fixing bacteria from root of grass in Brazil. So these are some case studies. There are several. These are the few These are the people who have isolated this in very early part of biofertilizer and biopesticide. There are several people in our country, in world, are done with several other raw materials. But these are the people who started this. It is an associative symbionts colonize on root and sometimes infect cortex without developing any apparent structure on roots. So isolation can be done from soil or root surface after sterilization with 0.1% mercury chloride. Media used for growth contains sodium malate. Medium turns blue in presence of azisopyrilum. Suitable carbon sources are malate, succinate, lactate, pyruvate, poor growth on glucose or citrate. For mass cultivation, ammonium chloride containing ocon medium is recommended. And these are phosphate stabilizing bacteria. P is second vital nutrient after N, after nitrogen, for the growth of plant. P available in soil is in insoluble form. Actually, nitrogen is required for overall growth and phosphorus is required for the growth of roots. So it was the second most important nutrient, generally supplied in the form of superphosphate. Many organisms in the soil solubilize phosphate are given. So PHB produces organic acids like lactic, succinic, propionic, formic acid, etc. So blue green algae. This is another important class of biofertilizer. The blue green algae are small organisms and can be seen under the microscope as a single cell or a large accumulation of cells, colonies, or string of cells. They have a similar external appearance to that of algae and azolla. Growing in the pond, their requirement for light, nutrients, and carbon dioxide are also similar. So cyanobacterial inoculants. The role of blue-green algae in the paddy field is very well known. It was used in paddy field as a biofertilizer. In water-lodging conditions, cyanobacteria multiply, fix nitrogen, and release in the form of amino acids, proteins, and other growth promotion substance. Cyanobacteria can be isolated on Fox medium by adding soil from paddy fields. After proper agitation, flask is incubated at RT under the influence of 12 hours of light dark regime. So let's not go in detail. These are the all bacterias and their characteristics, isolations, and how it used. For mass cultivation, pure culture of BGA is used in Incola. Method of mass cultivation involves cement tank method, shallow metal troughs method, polythene lined pit method, field method, and so on. Azolla is an aquatic heteroporous fern which contains an endophytic cyanobacterium. Anabina azolla is the leaf cavity that is shown in picture. For food growth of azolla P2O5 is added in water pond. pH is maintained at 8 and temperature between 40 and 30 degrees centigrade. An insecticide Puradon is added to check the growth of insects. After 3 weeks, azolla is harvested, dried and applied. Azolla shows tolerance to heavy metal like mercury, Pb, copper, cadmium, chromium. Azotobacter. So these are all of bacteria and fungi. It is free living nitrogen fixing bacteria present in alkaline and neutral soils. apart from its ability to fix atmosphere nitrogen in soils, it can also synthesize growth promoting substance. Issues of Azotobacter. It's the heaviest breathing organism and requires a large amount of organic carbon for its growth. So the carbon content in the soil should be good when we apply Azotobacter. Carbon content is very important factor in soil quality. When we say that the soil quality, the important characteristic is carbon content, and organic carbon content should be sufficient if you are applying Azotobacter. It is poor competitor for nutrients in soil. It can benefit crops by nitrogen fixation, release of growth promotion substance, and fungicide substance. Azotobacter is less effective in soils with poor organic matter content. It improves seed germination and plant growth. Azotobacter is newly discovered nitrogen fixing bacteria. This is mainly applied in sugarcane crops. Some case studies of sugarcane crop by using Azotobacter is also given in the coming slides. It was isolated from leaf, root, bud, and stem samples of sugarcane. Azotobacter is located in a apoplastic fluid of sugarcane stem and to some extent in xylem vessels. So vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza. The term mycorrhiza was taken from Greek language meaning fungus root. VAM help in nutrient transfer mainly of phosphorus, zinc, and sulfur. They also mobilize different nutrients like copper, potassium, aluminium, magnesium, iron, and magnesium from the soil to the plant roots. So, what is the mechanism of action? So VAM forms an association with plant roots. It penetrates in the root cortex and spreads around the roots of the plant. As the name indicates, they possess sac-like structure called vesiculus, which store phosphorus and phospholipids. The other structure called arbuscule helps bringing the distant nutrient to the vesicles and the root. So action is enhance the feeding area of the plant root is as the hyphae spreads around the roots. Mobilize the nutrient from distance to root. Stores the nutrient, especially phosphorus. Remove the toxic chemicals, which otherwise hinder nutrient availability. So it does not allow nutrient to absorb these toxic chemicals. The absorptivity reduces. To provide protection against other fungi and nematodes. Methods of biofertilizer inoculation. Seed inoculation. This is most common practice of applying biofertilizer. Usually, biofertilizer are applied to seed only. In this method, the biofertilizer are mixed with 10% solution of jaggery. The slurry is then poured over the seed spread on a cemented floor and mixed properly in a way that a thin layer is formed around the seeds. The treated seeds should be dried in the shade overnight and then they should be used. Generally, 750 gram of biofertilizer is required to treat the legume seeds for 1 hectare area. Soil application. This method is mostly used for fruit crop, sugarcane, and other crops where localized application is needed. At the time of planting of fruit trees, 20 gram of biofertilizer mixed with compost is to be added in the ring of one sampling. Sometimes the biofertilizer are also broadcasted in the soil, but we may require 4 to 10 times more biofertilizer. Before broadcasting, the inoculant should be incubated with the desired amount of well decomposed granulated FYM for 24 hours. So we will not go this in detail. We'll discuss, we'll go through the slides I will share with you. So advantage. So what are advantages and disadvantages? This is main thing. It is used to increase the yield. So fertilizer are used to increase the yield. That is, but it is used to increase the yield without harming the soil structure, soil fertility. It is also used to control vector-borne diseases. So there are many advantages of using the biofertilizer. They form an important association with other soil microbes and help in nutrient supply. It says atmospheric nitrogen, increase availability or uptake of nutrients through solubilization of or increase absorption. Remember, it is not only about the nutrients available in soil, it's also about absorption of the nutrients. Nutrients absorption efficiency, what we talked in the earlier slides, that is also very important. To stimulate plant growth through hormonal or antibiotic action or by decomposing organic waste. They are cheap, hence reduce cost of cultivation, improve soil properties and sustain soil fertility, lead to soil replenishment, enrichment, or compatible with long-term sustainability. So since it does not harm or have adverse impact, it was renewable, it was degraded, it would not remain in the atmosphere, in the soil, air, and water for longer time like chemicals. So it will be sustainable. So it will be, it will not harm your ecosystem in a whole. Build up soil fertility in the long term. So it will bring, it will replenish, it will make soil fertility for long term. Sometimes maybe you may not require to add fertilizer or, or nutrients. Your soil is sufficiently replaced with this. As there was advantage, there will be disadvantage. So it is injurious to man and animals many a time. It can cause destruction. As such, in general, there is no harmful impact, but still some fungi and some bacteria can be harmful to man and animal. Specific to the plant like Rhizobium species, culture doesn't work well in high nitrate tolerance strains of soybean. The acceptable of biofertilizer has been rather low, chiefly because they do not produce quick and spectacular responses. Production amount and and it is slow. So that was why it was not used mostly. Required skill in production and application. Difficult to store. These are current intervention in traditional agrobiotechnology by using biofertilizers. So this is a crop nursery for sugarcane with application of biofertilizer and biopesticide. In comparison with organic manure, with chemical, and with the potential for biofertilizer. The growth in agriculture production during the last 3 decades has been accompanied by a sharp increase in the use of chemical fertilizer that we have discussed up till now and causing serious concern. The foremost among these concern is the effect of excessive fertilizer on the quality of soil, groundwater, as well as in air pollution. So biofertilizers are considered to be an important alternative source of plant nutrition. They are biologically active products, including bacteria, algae, or fungi, with the ability to provide plants with nutrients. That's what we have discussed up till now. Most biofertilizers belong to one of two categories: nitrogen fixing and phosphate solubilizing. So nitrogen fixing biofertilizer fix atmospheric nitrogen into forms which are readily usable by plants. And this include and this we have discussed one by one. We have discussed this all. So use of balanced fertilizer. We need to think judiciously since biofertilizer is slow productivity will be less. So can we make a combination of organic fertilizer, biofertilizer, and chemical fertilizer and maintain that productivity, production per hectare? Can we increase that production per hectare? So that we need to check. No doubt it enrich the soil with important nutrients. Chemical fertilizer also do the same, but it harms the ecosystem. Whereas biofertilizer, the advantage is it does not harm the ecosystem. Major biofertilizer and target crop. So rhizobium is used in leguminous crop, and this leguminous crop is itself used as a fertilizer, biofertilizer. Azitobacter for wheat, rice, vegetables, and Azisopyrilum for rice and sugarcane, blue-green algae for rice, azolla for rice, and phosphate solubilizing microorganism for all, because you need NPK. So these are some from literature. We have taken the effect of Azitobacter on crop yield. So if you see this table, increase in yield over yield obtained with chemical fertilizer has been shown. This shown that it was 8 to 10% more yield than chemical fertilizer. If you remember the first few graphs, we have seen that it up to 97, 98, chemical fertilizer increased the production in a great way. But after that, the production capacity does not increase. So it becomes stagnant. It becomes stagnant thereafter. But this work shows from literature that by using biofertilizer, the yield increased by 8 to 10% for wheat and 13% for potato, and went up to 24% for tomato and 27% for cotton, and so on. So the current scenario of Indian agriculture and promotion of biofertilizer. The green revolution brought impressive gains in food. We becomes a food sustained country, food access country, but with insufficient concern for sustainability. But it was not sustained after 97, 98. The production is not increasing. Population is increasing, but production is not increasing. So we want a sustainable technology for Indian agriculture. In India, the availability and affordability of fossil fuel-based chemical fertilizer at the farm level have been ensured only through imports and subsidies. We know we have fertilizer subsidies in our country because chemical fertilizer is a very costly affair. So farmers and, and farmers in our country where land holding is very less can't afford this. So there are subsidies on fertilizer. So government spend lots of money on this subsidizing this chemical fertilizer. So if we can give an alternative, a better fertilizer, so that can reduce the cost of the subsidies, that can reduce the cost of farm production. Dependence on chemical fertilizer for future agricultural growth would mean further loss in soil quality and possible of water contamination. The government of India has been trying to promote an improved practice involve use of biofertilizer along with chemical fertilizer. This is what we talk of combination. Production of biofertilizer in India. Presently, a number of agriculture universities, state agriculture departments, and commercial enterprises produce various biofertilizers. Objectives of producing biofertilizer in India. The main objective of the National Center are to produce a market biofertilizer of required quality, isolate and maintain biofertilizer strains sustainable to various agroclimate regions, train agriculture extension workers, promote biofertilizer through field demonstrations, prepared quality parameters, and so on. 80% of Indian farmers are small and marginal with operational land holding of less than 1.4 hectares. And wheat and rice are the two major crops grown in India. The factor of sustainability, raise farm income. We know the farming issues in our country. The most affected people and profession in our country. Increase crop productivity through balanced use of fertilizer. Managing cost of inputs, increase fertilizer use efficiency. Generation of additional income to farmers through allied activities. So this fertilizer, biofertilizer can be produced by the farmer themselves. I skip some of the slides. Some commercial biofertilizer in the Indian market. Then biopesticides. Here for a minute, we will start with biofertilizer. So, so the after fertilizer, we now reach to pesticides. So we know the pesticides are agents that damages the economic and physical cell being of a human being. Pesticides are chemicals which kills or repels the pest. So about 80,000 tons of pesticides are used in agriculture. The intensive use of pesticide in agriculture is cause of serious concern. The problem is especially serious because of the development of resistance to pesticide in important pests and the presence of pesticide residue in agriculture and dairy product. Because this residue will be there in your agriculture product, in your dairy product. Many of our fruits is not get exported because of the amount of pesticide. Our milk is not exported due to its pesticide content. So very stringent norms of the westernized country about this pesticide content in food because of the residue which remain in agriculture and dairy product. What is the advantage of biopesticide? Biopesticide are derived from animal, plants, and microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses, similar to what we talk of biofertilizer. They are inherently less harmful than chemical pesticides. They are more target specific and they're close relatives. In contrast, chemical pesticides are often destroy friendly insects, birds, and mammals also. They are often effective in small quantities. Also, they decompose quickly and do not leave the problematic residue, like what it was in chemical pesticide. You know the biological methods of pest control, where weeds are undesirable plants that grow along with the crops and compete with them for food, space, and water. So what we do, the modern technique, biological controls of weeds that involves the use of insects and microorganisms to feed on these weeds and not on the crops are called like bioherbicide was used as an biopesticide. Some important biopesticide and biocontrol agent. Bacillus thuringiensis or BT cotton or BT we have heard and it was very popular type of biopest is the most commonly used biopesticide globally. It is the primary pathogen of Lepidopterous pests which are some of the most damaging when ingested by pest larva. BT released toxins which damage the mind mid-gut of pest, eventually killing it. BTS pesticides are being marketed by 3 companies in India, and it was very popular. So it was soil-dwelling bacterium commonly used as a pesticide. BT also occur naturally in the gut of caterpillar of various types of moths and butterflies, as well as on the dark surface of plants. BT has to be eaten to cause mortality. The BT toxin dissolve in high pH insect gut and become active. The toxin then attack the gut cells of the insect, punching holes in the lining. The BT spores spills out of the gut and germinate in the insect, causing death within couple of days. Even though the toxin does not kill the insect immediately, treated plant parts with all the damage because the insect stops feeding within hours. BT spores do not spread to the insect or cause disease outbreak on their own. So this figure shows how BT works. Insect eats BT crystals and spores. The toxin binds to specific receptor in the gut and the insect stop eating. The crystal cause the gut wall to break down, allowing spores and normal gut bacteria to enter the body. The insect dies as the spores and gut bacteria proliferate in the body. BT action is very specific. Very common biopesticide used nowadays. You might have heard of PT cotton and all. Lecture. Now, neem, from tradition, we use this as a pesticide. From ancient time, we use this, right? So, derived from neem tree, this contains several chemicals, including which affects the reproductivity of digestive process of number of important pests. Recent research carried out in India and abroad has led to the development of effective formulation of neem, which are being commercially produced. As neem is non-toxic to birds and mammals and it's non-carcinogenic, it depends is likely to increase. And this is not new for us. Neem we traditionally was used and is used as a pest. Trichogramma are minute wasps which are exclusively egg parasites. They lay eggs in the egg of various Lepidopteran pests. After hatching, the Trichogramma larvae feed on and destroy the host egg. Trichogramma is the most popular biocontrol agent in India, mainly because it kills the pest in the egg stage, ensuring that the parasite is destroyed before any damage is done to the crop. These are some important plants and use of biopesticide in India. Crop-wise consumption of pesticide. Some commercial biopesticide in Indian market. The biggest problem to biopesticide and biofertilizer is awareness in the farmers. And biopesticide or biofarming can't be done by one farmer. It has to be a group farming. Otherwise, if one farmer from a group of surrounding farmers, if we use biopest and other use chemical pest, all the pest from the neighboring farm can destroy his crop. So it was as a group activity. All nearby area region should go for the same type of organic farming. So that awareness need to be created. So lack of skills. So how to prepare it locally, that skill has not been there. Lack of faith in integrated pest management, and its practice are difficult, sometimes cumbersome, and lack of proper training. So here I want to conclude biofertilizer. Despite the Indian government effort to promote the production and use of biofertilizer, various studies found that biofertilizer have found little acceptance among farmers in India because they want a large productivity. They want more crop per drop per hectare, and they still feels ki biofertilizer will not be able to produce them. The present policy of providing grants and low interest loans to biofertilizer producers should be abolished. This has resulted in setting up a large number of inefficient plants which cannot produce good quality biofertilizer. The storage and application of biofertilizer is also an issue. R&D to identify more suitable strains and to develop better production technology need to be taken care of. Biopesticides focus on sustainable agriculture by promoting disease and pest resistance and especially traditional varieties, judicious intercropping, and reduce crop intensity. Improvement in the intensity of training for IPM. The focus should be on quality of training and not on the number of farmers trained. So, so I thank you. I've taken a lot of time. So if anybody have question, I'm here to answer. I can take a couple of questions, no problem. Hello?
Yes, sir, that's absolutely fine. Actually, our session goes until 2:30, so no worries at all. We can take questions. I will request all the attendees to please unmute yourself, and in case if you have any queries, you can ask directly to our expert speaker. Until then, sir, there is one query which is in the chat box written by Shrivarshini madam. And she says, just a moment, she is asking, sir, what about GMC? Is it suitable for environmental factors changes?
GMC. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sir, so I will check the question because I don't get the question. I will check it in the chat box. No, I have to check
Okay.
it in the chat box. One minute. I will check all the questions and I will try to answer
Yes, sir,
that
that's
question.
fine.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Please, please.
Sir, am I audible? I
Yeah,
have one
yeah. You are audible,
question.
ma'am. You are audible.
Sir,
You are
as
audible.
you mentioned that that chemical fertilizers harm this soil and water bodies, underground water,
Uh-huh.
and in biofertilizers, in some extent, they harm, not as compared to chemical
Chemical
fertilizers. So,
fertilizer,
sir,
right?
can we use phytoremediation mechanism here to treat soil or water bodies,
Yeah, we can treat it,
groundwater?
but since you have such a large amount of pollution, so every water bodies, every lakes, every river can't be uh, treated. No, so that can be done for a small part, for small region. So it can be done
Yes,
for
I
a
mean, in farming area field.
right. The farming area itself, ma'am, it's very large. So so it's very difficult to do post pipe treatment. So what we are planning is to do to avoid this soil erosion and water pollution. So try to have an balance used of biofertilizer and chemical fertilizer, because low use of NPK will not be that harmful. Even chemical fertilizer also, but if you use it in large, then it will seep, it will be into water bodies, it will burn with crops. That can be done, but that it can be done for a small part. It can be done for a big part of farmlands or for big lakes, for big water bodies. So that's very difficult.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. It was wonderful session.
All the other attendees are requested. In case if you have any queries, you can also unmute yourself and ask our expert speaker directly. Or you can, in case if you are not comfortable to unmute, you can always type in your query or the question or your experience also you can share in the chat box, and that can be, read out.
Very good afternoon, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. You are audible.
Yeah. Thank you for the nice session, sir. I'm having only one question, sir, regarding the biopesticides.
Uh-huh.
Can we diagnose the plant diseases through biopesticides, sir? Will it be possible?
So to diagnose the pest.
Plant diseases, sir, like the disease which are all arise by using by the pests, sir.
Yeah, diagnosis is very important, but that can be done not by biopesticide, by other methods, like which type of pest is there and how to treat it. That can be diagnosed, but it will not be done by biopesticide. Biopesticide is to treat the pest on that plant,
Okay.
to take care of that pest on that plant.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So if anybody else has any queries, you can always go ahead and ask. I think Shrivarshini madam has mentioned Shrivarshini madam has mentioned her query in the chat box. However, I am not able to communicate it quite correctly because I am not from the biotechnology background. I am so sorry for that, ma'am. You can always, Shrivarshini ma'am, in case if you are still with us, you can always unmute yourself and you can ask your question directly. Okay, Shrivarshini ma'am is writing that she has some network issues and she's not very comfortable to unmute. Shrivarshini ma'am, if you will just let us know what do you mean by GMC, so that we will be able to address your query. Sir, we are waiting for the queries in the chat box.
Right, sure.
Okay, okay. So, sir, Shrivarshini ma'am has written, she means genetically modified crops. Maybe she is trying to ask here as to what is your opinion about genetically modified crops in agriculture biotechnology side?
Yeah, we talk of BT cotton.
And she is asking whether it is suitable for environmental factor changes.
Genetically modified crop are plant used when DNA which has been modified in genetically engineering. So it was environmentally. I am not proper because I am not in work in genetically modified crops. So I don't know much about it. But now these are the practice. Many of the crops of GM has been used, and many new techniques like BT cotton and BT in sugar cane are coming up. So till we don't have any issues, but we have to check in long term whether it will harm to environment or to our health. That we need to check because it's not that old. It was recently used technology, so we have to wait for some time to comment on GM crop.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So if anybody else has any queries, you can ask right away. Otherwise, we will conclude the session then. Well, sir, I suppose that there are no more queries.
Right.
So we would conclude here on behalf of Ballarpur Institute of Technology, Ballarpur, and on behalf of the organizing committee of this short-term training program. I would like to extend many thanks to you for conducting such an in-depth presentation. It was a really nice presentation, and we have so many what can we say? We have so many comments in the chat box as well, wherein Santosh sir is writing informative session, sir. Then we have Dr. Ambalal Katra is writing very nice presentation and informative session, sir. Then we have Dr. Arun Palanisamy. He is writing thank you for the informative session, sir. So Samriddhi Chaudhary ma'am is also writing thank you, sir. Very informative and wonderful session. Dr. G. Ramesh has also written thank you, sir. It was a nice presentation. So, all in all, I must say that from the chat box, comments in the chat box, I suppose that this session was a really successful one. And thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule, accepting our request, and conducting such a wonderful session. We would also like to, we would also like to see you further and listen to you more in our coming batches of short-term training programs. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, on behalf of now to all the attendees, the feedback form, the link to share feedback form will be shared shortly on the WhatsApp group, and you can fill in the feedback for this particular session. And once that is done, we will resume